This is just my backstory. And it's not that I'm bragging on me. It's just I want you to know where I came from. And for those of you who are still harvesting a dream in the back of your head, it's still growing. It's still maturing and you haven't got there yet. Maybe this will inspire you or give you a little bit of direction in helping you achieve the dream. Because we don't all get to have jobs that we love. And I do. And it started way back when I was a little kiddo. I lived way out in the middle of nowhere on a horse ranch. We didn't have cable. We had like 3 TV channels. So radio was my connection to the outside world. I could get more than 3 channels and it was interactive and people could call in and I used to love it, right? So that's what I wanted to do. And so when I was growing up in high school, I was in the GT program, not to brag, but we got to do a career day. We would go get to spend a week at the job of our choice and we got to do it a couple times a year. So my junior year, I put down that they're like, list your top 3 dream jobs. And so I said, radio host, and then what's kind of close to that? Well, TV host. And then I don't even remember what the third one I wrote was because they looked at that and they're like, well, radio host isn't a real job. So they sent me to the TV station. That's all fine and good. So next year, my senior year, when I got to do it, I tried to trick them. I put, all right, my 3 dream jobs are radio host. And then I put 2 jobs I knew they wouldn't send me to. I put a bartender and rodeo clown. And so they sent me to the TV station again. Come on, man. Like, radio's not even a real job. That was my background, but I always wanted to do it. Went to college for computers, got laid off in computers a couple times and thought, well, I don't like this job anyway. I'm gonna pursue radio. So what did I do? I started making content. I made some bits. I made some skits. I put them online. And then I applied at every radio station in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And there were more back then than there is now. And I didn't care about the format. I didn't care about the company. I didn't care about the location. Literally every station in DFW that I could get in contact with, I got them a resume. I got them audio. I showed them my stuff online. If I had to physically take them a CD, I would bring it to them. Every single one of them turned me down. Every single one. And then in 2001, there was a new show that came on another station here called Pugs and Kelly. They were on 105.3 at the time, long before it was sports. It was kind of a new show. They were asking for interns, so I applied. Never got a call back, but the good news is 3 months later, it's a new semester. They're asking for interns again. So I applied again, but I wasn't just going to be one guy in the stack. I started going to every radio station event I could make it to. I couldn't make it to all of them because I still had to work. But, at these station events, you get to meet them, you get to say hi, you kind of hang out. There would always be like a drawing to win something, or if they needed help with anything. I would always fill out one of those little cards and put it in the box. Why? Because they told me to. So after a while, they start recognizing you. And when it was time to hire a new intern, guess what? I still didn't get the job. You thought I was going to say I got the job, didn't you? But I didn't quit. I kept stalking, kept going to station events, kept following around, kept sending in emails. And there was a station event at Times Square. Do you remember Times Square? Some of y'all do. It was like at the Beltline in Montford area. It's that old theater that they converted into a club. And I actually won the raffle drawing, where you put your name in the box. What did I win? I won a trip to Cancun with the show and a handful of listeners. So then I go to Mexico with this show I've been trying to get a job with for a whole year now. And I don't know if you've been to Mexico, but you need to know that there's not really laws. I mean, they have laws, but if you want to break the rules, all you got to do is pay off somebody. So this first happened when we were hanging out and it was past midnight and we wanted to use the side pool in the resort, but it was closed. We're like, whatever, let's go jump in it anyway. Some security guys show up and guess who's the only one who speaks enough Spanish to negotiate the bribe and keep the party going? That's me. And it's not that I'm fluent. I know enough to bribe a cop. So a few minutes later, a couple federales come by with their big O guns and it's like, James. So wherever we went for that week, I was the guy that negotiated the bribes with the cops. Bobby gets caught smoking weed. Guess who has to ask the cops how much money they need? So when we get back to Dallas, this time I actually had the job. Great. I got the job of what? An unpaid intern. And then I only got 4 months until the next semester. So my foot is in the door, but how am I going to keep it in? I was working at a shop called Vitamin World. There was one in Willow Bend and Stonebriar and Valley View and Richardson Square Mall. I had to quit that job because I kept missing work to go to radio events for a show that wasn't even paying me, for a job that wasn't even paying me. So what did I do? I walked next door to Dream Cafe, kept doing radio, just started waiting tables. So interns are usually the hiring pool for new producers and promotions department, engineering department. So after my internship expired, I kept coming in anyway, and I told them I got hired on. My access card didn't work to the door anymore, so I basically had to sneak into work every day for another 4 months until I for real got hired for the worst shift possible, overnight weekend board op. And then to get my first hosting job, I had to move. I had to move to Woodward, Oklahoma. It's the middle of nowhere. My next job is Sirius Satellite Radio. It was in New Orleans. Katrina just happened, so I got the job, but there was nowhere to live. I told them I was crashing on a couch, but I was really sleeping in my car for about a month and a half until I could get a place. There was just seriously nowhere to live. I just had to be somebody's roommate. So then I was on satellite for 3 years, got a job at TV in New Orleans, then at a radio station. And then when all my jobs got wiped out by COVID, I didn't quit. I got my foot in the door at USA Radio Network, which was based back here in Dallas. Then when the owner of that, Fred, died, it got wiped out. I got another job, TV, then this job. But let me fill in some of the blanks there because, that version of the origin story just makes it seem like, well, James, it's all hard work and he just really made it happen. Well, there was a lot of hard work and I was pretty relentless in my pursuit here. But I want to add the layer of luck that happened. Because there's a couple of times where what I thought was bad luck turned out to be good luck. And what I thought was good luck turned out to be bad luck. And when I just didn't expect it, a couple times miracles happen. So let's rewind. I'm here in Dallas, 2002, got my first job. You roll around to 2005. I've now been at that job for 3 years, and I'm just a part-time, $10 an hour, board op, picking up whatever shifts and helping out with whatever bits I can do. And a full-time job came up on the show I was working for. And you would think, hey, maybe old Parker should slide into that slot. But there was another producer who had been there longer than me. And so he got the job. And I was just thinking, well, what do I do? Wait until he quits or gets hit by a bus or whatever? When is there going to be an opportunity opening up for me to work full time? Well, they'll tell you if you want your first full-time job, you can go to a tiny market, to a tiny radio station in the middle of nowhere. They are dying for people to work for them full-time. Now, it doesn't pay much, but you didn't say you wanted a high pay. You said you wanted a full-time job. And so I was thinking, oh, man, okay, well, I've never lived outside of Texas before. I'm just some country bumpkin who thinks Dallas is the most exotic, cosmopolitan place ever. And so I went looking, and they were right. It didn't take very long. If you're willing to move to the absolute middle of nowhere to some town you never heard of 21,000 people or whatever it was, I got a job in Woodward, Oklahoma. Not bad. That's only like, 6-7 hours northwest of here. You know how scary that is, though? What am I going to do? I'm going to give up like where all my friends are, where all my family is, where all my connections are, my radio connections, my other connections, my support group, my friend group. I'm going to move to a town of 20,000 people where I don't know anybody. For what? A job that pays $22,000 a year, which wasn't a lot of money back in 2005. I know it doesn't sound like much now. Wasn't much back then either. What a scary leap. Now, you're also in the terrible position of, okay, at this point, I'm working at another table waiting job at this place called the Elephant Bar. I think before that was Canyon Cafe, and then it was Elephant Bar for like 1 year. And Trinity Mills in the Tollway, for those of you people who might remember that. But I was about to screw them over because when I came back from the job interview, they wanted me to start the next week. And so I didn't have time for a 2-week notice. So I was going to come in and I was going to try and pull off this thing. Listen, I need to work Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Those are your money shifts. And then I've got to get in my car and drive to a new town 8 hours away to be at my new job on Monday. So I didn't know if they were going to let me do it, but I didn't have the money to move. I needed to make $600 in order to pull this move off, in order to wrap up my affairs here. I didn't have a whole lot of stuff to move, so it's not like I needed a moving truck, but to get set up on the other end. And I'm like, I don't think I can make $600 in one weekend. But, well, let's go try. So Friday, I go to work, and the door's locked, and there's a bunch of other of my coworkers standing out front. What's going on? I don't know. The GM shows up, says, got bad news, guys. They're shutting down this location of the franchise, and we're all out of a job. And went, oh, no. So now there's no way I'm going to make $600 this weekend. He says, no, but the corporate office in California is going to cut you a severance check based on your last 2 weeks of earnings. So we're not leaving you hanging too bad. So guess what? I got a check for $600. That was the exact amount I needed to pull this off. And so I just like looked up and I'm like, oh my goodness. God, are you messing with me? Are you just watching my life like a movie? Am I entertainment to you? That was an amazing sign that I was on the right path. And you know what I didn't realize is how scary the whole process is. I know why you people don't follow your dreams. I know why you people don't take big leaps or take big risks. It's scary, and rightfully so. Now, if I knew then what I know now, I would have completely enjoyed the 1 year that I was in a tiny little town. But it was scary because when I was there, I was like, how long am I going to be here? Is this what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? Am I going to be in this tiny little town does it ever get better from here? Because there's no promises. You get there and you see some people who are just transient moving through, and you see some people who came through like 12 years ago and they've just been there ever since. And this was not the pinnacle of their ambition, but this is just how it worked out for them. There's also the scary part. What if I just ditch everything I'm doing here, move up there and fail? What if I get fired in 3 months or 6 months or in a year? Is that the end? Is my career over then? Am I walking right? Because if you fail in the smallest, easiest market possible, do you really have a future? I don't think so. And so then my next big opportunity came after Hurricane Katrina, something I was watching from Oklahoma. There was a guy who did a show on Sirius satellite radio, and his producer got washed out with the flood. She didn't die. She just moved back home because there was literally nowhere to live. Her apartments got wiped out. You couldn't get another apartment. You couldn't get a roommate or whatever. And to be honest, she wasn't that good of a producer anyway. So I got hired down there. And he's like, can you find a place to stay down here? And I knew one guy from Dallas that had moved to New Orleans, and he let me crash on his couch like one time, like the first night I got there. And then I told him I was just staying with my buddy Hap, and I had a place. I was really just sleeping in my car. There's a little truck stop, a TA in Slidell, where they have showers. And I'd never done that before. I'd never used trucker showers before. It's pretty cheap. It's not bad. But even though I wore flip-flops, that was the first time in my life I got foot rot. Athlete's foot or whatever you call it. I played football and soccer growing up, and in all the nasty locker rooms throughout East Texas and the places we would go visit. I even played in college. And in all those locker rooms, never got foot rot. First time I used a trucker shower, foot rot. So that's a real thing. So yeah, lived in your car for about a month before I got on my feet. But the point is you want your dream? How bad do you want it? Don't sit around and wait for someone don't say who's going to give me my dream or who's going to allow me or who's going to give me a shot. You need to say who's going to stop me. Are you willing to work for free? Because that didn't stop me. Are you willing to break the rules and sneak into work to do it for free? Are you willing to drop your entire life and move to the middle of nowhere with no promise of success, no promise of cash or rewards? You may fail. Are you willing to uproot your life and go to a disaster area? Are you willing to go to workshops, training classes, industry conferences, stand-up comedy classes, writing workshops? Are you willing to be canceled 6 times? You know how bad that feels to have your show canceled? 6 times and keep going? Some people have their dream fall in their lap, but I suspect most people, probably 95, if not more, % of people who reach their dream is because they were relentless. It's because they chased it hard. It's because they never made an excuse. They never quit. I had 6 different chances to quit. I had better offers for better jobs that paid more. I just didn't quit. If you want your dream, you might have to be a little bit psycho to get there. But if you do, it's going to be worth it. But even if I didn't, I would be able to sleep at night and look at my kids in the face. It's like, yeah, your dad's a failure. But it's not because he didn't try.
The James Show Podcast.